only one appointment she takes me to is a chiropractor. And to see someone take away so much pain from your mother's life with their hands, I was like, that's magic. That's what I want to do.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Life by Life West. I'm Dr. Ron Oberstein, one of your hosts. My co-host is my partner in health and my partner in life, Dr. Mary Oberstein. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Good. And today we've got a really special person. We've got a Life West grad, graduated in 2019, actually had a very interesting journey, graduate from Life West, came from Wales, the Chiropractic College in Wales. Dr. Vivek, you can share the name of it. I don't know the name of it, but he was over at Wales, wanted the principal, wanted to have more chiropractic, and transferred over to Life West, and just got heavily involved in the college, and just was just a phenomenal student and a brilliant mind. Dr. Vivek Soham. Welcome, Dr. Vivek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you. I'll just kind of share a little bit about you. While Dr. Vivek, and we're just going to say Vivek, while he went through Life West, during the program, he also did a master's course in neurophysiology from the University of Washington. He's got a research mind. We're going to be talking about research today. He practices in San Diego, California, has an upper cervical practice, a NUCA practice. And though he was born in just right around Cocoa Beach, Florida, you'll notice that he doesn't have a Floridian accent. He's got an English accent because he was raised in London by his mother. And when he moved there like at 3 years of age, and he's just a wonderful gentleman. I called him my bodyguard while he was at campus, because he's a black belt, I believe, in a martial arts form, probably a triple black belt in 5 different forms. He's an overachiever, but he is a phenomenal chiropractor. So Vivek, we are thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate that introduction.
Hey, listen, it's not, at least it wasn't a eulogy, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about moving forward, but Mary, I don't know. I think the place to probably start really is probably somewhere around, you came to college, obviously, you had this journey to get here and you made it to Life West. I mean, you had a bunch of schools that you flew over, from coming from the pond, across the pond over the Atlantic. You can either share what got you to Life West, but I certainly want to know, while you were here, you get a master's in neurophysiology at the same time, and I know that you were social. So I don't, talk to us about that.
Yeah. So like rewinding all the way back to, I guess, when this journey started when I was 9, and how I got into chiropractic. Like my mom got in a horrific car accident, and it was really tough to see her like struggle as a single parent to support me and my sister, and trying everything. Like healthcare in the UK was free. Chiropractic still wasn't covered under the free healthcare. So it's whatever the insurance companies are going to try and give her any sort of pain relief. And then the only one appointment she takes me to is a chiropractor. And to see someone take away so much pain from your mother's life with their hands, I was like, that's magic. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 9.
9.
I still remember it vividly. And it definitely, like, people say, hey, how'd you get into it? Like, what's your why? And like, it was in that moment, like I said, I knew what I wanted to be. And my mom definitely, she didn't try to deter me, but she was like, I'm a stubborn 9-year-old. Like, I knew what I wanted. And I did all the sciences. I only applied, like, we get 5 slots to apply for university in the UK. I only applied using 2, and most people have to go through all 5 of theirs to get in. And I was like 1 and 2, chiropractic university 1, chiropractic university number 2. Wow. Someone's like, yeah, go be a spinal surgeon, go do this. But I think the way that I was raised and brought up in that holistic mindset, that Eastern culture at home, chiropractic just really encompassed that full body approach.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think the audience should know this, our viewers, your mom works at the college now.
Yes.
And
yeah.
She's been here, she's a wonderful, she's in our health center. She's got the most beautiful smile on her face and greets people. And just, she's just really a wonderful, wonderful woman.
Yeah. And I get a lot of people, like my mom tells me, someone asked me to be their CA every day. Someone wants her to work in their office. And I'm trying to get her into my office. She won't do it.
You got a lot of competition.
Yeah, I do. I have to fight off so many people at this point. And it's amazing to see, like, she's seen so many students through too, into like really sort of adopt this like drive and this passion that I had. And it was actually, when I was 14, 15, I was starting to shadow chiropractors, and I never had a chiropractic adjustment. We couldn't afford one. And I didn't have my first one until I was in university, the first round, when I was 19 or 18, in chiropractic school. And yeah, my mom encouraged me to go to wherever I wanted to move back to the States. She's like, where's the best place you want to go? Go do it. And I sort of wanted to stay at home. I wanted to look after my mom, my grandma, my sister. I wanted to be that sort of distance away, even though it was still 3-4 hours, it was still in the same country.
Yeah.
And then I actually didn't tell my mom that I applied. It was randomly. I usually work abroad in different places, and I applied. I was like, I just what if? Because Life West was the number 1, number 2 school at the time when I was looking. And I heard about all these wonderful things, and everyone's like, you have to go to Life West. And this is still being in the UK. So I applied, and this was after 2.5 years of chiropractic school. And then I went through the interview process, got accepted. And then I come home for Christmas, and I said, hey, Mom, I'm moving. And first thing she says is, okay, what can I do to help? I can't give you any money or any food or whatever. I can give you food. I can support you, pack the bags, whatever it is. And like, let's do this. And it was a big move again, just like financially for us. And that's why she said like, whatever she can do to support. And then, yeah, I moved in 2016 to Life West. I wanted more tools in my toolbox originally. I think I definitely did get more tools in my toolbox, but not in the sense that I thought. I wanted to practice as many different techniques as I can. And now I just practice one technique, which is Nuka. But yeah, like it was one of the best decisions career-wise that I've ever made.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Awesome.
Hands down. I've looked at so many different schools. I've spoken to so many different students, and I've taught now at different colleges as seminars. In just the way that Life West has evolved and been set up, the abundance, the access, the resources, Life West has definitely done a great job in providing that space and like principled chiropractic.
Yeah.
It's not just like providing everything and anything. It's providing.
We're blushing. We're blushing. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get back to this interview after this paid announcement about Life West. Now, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and I haven't been paid to say anything, but
they know that. They know that.
And it was like from the bottom of my heart, like it was a great decision. I mean, but that's what brought me to Life West.
Yeah, but talk about the neurophysiology. So all of a sudden you're here, and thank you for saying that. You're here, and you decide to get a master's in neurophys. Like what was that?
So this is a much more in-depth story. I started a research project while I was in Wales. It was in a small room, and if anyone knows, we call Wales the wet blanket. It's always raining. It's miserable. So this is like a small dingy room, and I was already in a research associate. I was already helping in this paper for thermography and thermogenetics, looking at heat patternings and different things while I was in chiropractic school in Wales. And I was asked to do my own project. So I wanted to look at performance enhancement and rehabilitation of athletes. And I wanted to look at it from a chiropractic perspective. How do we map the neurology of the body and influence it and elevate it from a chiropractic standpoint? And then fast forward 2.5 years, I'm at Life West. We've expanded this project into a company. We're working with professional golfers. We're going through this entire like overhaul, and there was a lot of things that happened in the process, and a lot of our funding got cut. So I'm sitting here having built close to $1 million company now with just a bunch of research and data, but no access and ability to do everything. And that's as much as I can put to it because of the NDAs. So I used whatever I could that wasn't part of the NDAs towards a thesis in going and collaborating with both my old university and the University of Washington to get my master's. I was I was like, I wanted to do another degree. I originally wanted to do a PhD in biomechanics. I looked at a PhD in neuroscience. It was the human brain and the body fascinates me. Our ability to impact lives the way that we do, as much as we love to talk about that holistic approach, there's a large majority of the world that doesn't understand. So it's trying to bridge that gap. And that's where that desire to say, well, if we start to speak the language, produce a bit of that research. I'm not, as much as it sounds like I'm the research head and the bobblehead, I like to simplify things as best as I can in order to communicate that. And that's what a lot of the seminars and the classes and the stuff that we do, even on the research projects, is making them small, digestible pieces to be able to say, look, okay, this is how the body works. And I wanted to add to that. Honestly, the master's was super easy, not just the fact that I already had the research done, or some of it. The neurology we learned in school was, to an extent, a pretty in-depth, if not more in-depth in some aspects.
Right, but having your thesis done was kind of, that is what you're saying, you know, for the master's, you had already worked on that, but still taking the time to do it is a lot while you're going through the program here, you know?
Yeah, no, it definitely took some time.
That's what I want to know. How did you juggle it? How did you juggle school and just all the work?
As much as you said I had a social life, because I had to go through the program again, and I was sort of retaking a lot of the classes depending on what credits and stuff transferred and not. I said to myself, I want to build myself as much as I can in other departments. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't necessarily be studying as much, because if it was a class that I'd already taken, if it was something that I was already knowledgeable on, and I'd been reading textbooks since I was 15, since I was like 14, whatever I could get my hands on to understand the human body. So like schooling in that sense, like if it was one of the earlier classes, it made it much easier to not have to put as much hours into that, so I could do other things.
That's so cool.
And yeah, like my mom would always say, she's like, I don't know how you did it. I worked another job as well. I was in school. Well, after my mom moved, she moved a year and a half later to California to be closer to myself, and she would live right next door to me. Like we'd have an apartment, and she'd be right in the room next to me, but I wouldn't see her for 3 days, because it was just like working 16 hours a day. I would only come home to sleep and eat if there was any food left in the fridge, or I'd make my own food.
Well, I'm sure she came in and gave you food.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I'm really grateful for. I was able to really push myself to. I probably pushed myself to past a lot of breaking points. My mom definitely was. I'm very grateful for her in that. I was able to really go face to the glass, as they like to say, or they say other stuff, but face to the glass, to be able to get through and do as much as I can to set myself up.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me, I have to tell you, because Mary, I'd probably the same with you, is that you applied to 2 chiropractic schools, right? Then when you decided to leave there, and you were doing 2 different things, chiropractic and research, and then when you decided to leave, there was 2 that you looked at, Life West and Life West. You knew that you wanted to be here, and then when you got here, you did 2. It wouldn't surprise me if you have twins. It just sounds like things come in 2s for you, right?
I hope you don't say that to my future partner.
We'll cancel that.
There's twins. There's twins in our family, actually.
Oh, there you go.
My dad's side, we have twins consistently, and my dad is a twin. So.
Oh wow!
And we're waiting. My entire generation on my dad's side, no one's had twins yet. So I guess it's on me and my sister.
That's right.
That might be where the 2s come from. Mira, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you had the best support system, which is your mom.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just want to keep it real for people who are looking at you thinking, well, look what this guy did. I can't do that. You must be a brainiac. Was there ever a time where you got burnt out, or was you kind of talked about a little bit that you hit like a breaking point? What was there lows? And then how did you overcome that? What did you do to?
I've actually, the book that I'm writing right now, just from that journey from the graduation to the point, there's so many highs and lows, and every turning point and the moral behind that and how I learned it. Just so much gratitude towards my mom and grandma, very wise women and people that gave me so many tools to handle and have such mental fortitude throughout life. Because we've had such a a crazy backstory. It was like, yeah, like friends and family. Like, there would be times when like my mom would be like, do I need to call your sister to come here to help you? Like it got to those points because I was just like, she was like, you're not human right now. And
Wow.
it was tough to see that and see what it was doing to my relationships when you have such a desire and a drive to create something. And I had the conversation on the way up here to yesterday. I said, Mom, like I want to retire her, as everyone wants to, like, but there's difference. Like I want to retire the entire family too.
Mm.
And it's not just through making a lot of money. It's like allowing them to go live the dreams that they want to go do because they spent so much time supporting everyone else and surviving, not thriving.
Yes.
But yeah, I try not to, and my mom and my sister are the better ones at this. Try not to have too much of an ego. Try and be humble and not have so much expectations for outcomes, and accept the process as you go through it and what it has to give for you.
Yeah, it's so heartwarming because I think it's so important that, listen, you obviously come from a culture, that is all about family. And that, you were able to witness, your grandmother and your mother raising you and being, the figureheads, around you. And I see your mom now, and I just know what kind of a servant she is. I mean, she truly is she's selfless. I mean, when you talk about selflessness, your mom epitomizes that, at the college. And I think it's just beautiful, that you have that desire to give back and let them, have that. And yet I will tell you as a parent, Vivek, and you're not a parent yet, that they probably won't accept it as much as they want to have you go and thrive, because it's just kind of where we come from. I'm not saying it's right, but it's just where we come from, It's so cool. But like the neurophysiology, I keep going back to that, because it's kind of like, research. I don't want to talk about neurophysiology, but research, because obviously you're doing research. I think if I'm correct, you're on the board of NUCA's Research Foundation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on the editorial board for the UCRF, Upper Cervical Research Foundation.
Okay, so that's not just NUCA. Is it all?
Yeah, all upper cervical research. We have helped various upper cervical projects through Blair and I think Advo recently in terms of over the last few years. So yeah, serve on the editorial board there, act more as a consultant as well from like the strategic management to understand how we can produce research in an easier, more simplistic way, and also to that higher standard, because as much as I was actually reading a really very simple quote, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. And just so, because it hasn't been done, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or isn't true.
Yeah.
And so, and this one thing I always say whenever we not just teach chiropractic philosophy, but philosophy in general at these schools, is like you have to question. You have to question your teachers. You have to question everything that's in front of you, because if you consistently always just accept that what you're being told is true, then we'll never progress. We'll never be able to actually expand that consciousness of what are our capabilities and what is the impact that we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, from a neurophysiological standpoint, it's like, well, how many variables can we standardize? And this is what people get very, chiropractors especially get very hung up on. And they're like, oh, there needs to be this double blind. It needs to be this randomized control trial. And that's impossible for a service-based profession like ourselves. And that's actually not the gold standard. It's a meta-analysis. So this randomized control trial, this double blind, doesn't exist within this paradigm of space, because it's not, we're so used to hearing about it with these drugs and these pills and these supplements.
Right. And just to kind of talk about that, just for our viewers, is like a double blind would be, you have 100 people coming in to get adjusted, and you have another 100 people thinking they're getting adjusted, but they are not getting adjusted, right? And that would be that.
So that's just one part of it. And then the other, that's the one blind side. The second blind side would be that the doctors don't know whether they're giving the adjustment or not. which would be impossible to do.
You can't do
right?
that. Exactly.
So to make it like what an actual double blind is, to keep it simple, is like you have two groups of people, and the doctors and the groups of people do not know whether they are receiving the pill or the sugar pill, the placebo,
or the adjustment and the sham adjustment, right?
Yes, but like, how does a doctor know if they're not giving an adjustment, right? It
Well,
doesn't.
the only way to do it would be, let's just make this up and say, if you had an instrument, even like an SLA or a activator instrument that was turned off, and if they've never been under care, they wouldn't know that no force was going in, right? They'd have no idea.
But if you're trained in the protocol to be able to do the research, you'd know that it's not working.
It's for the doctor, yes, but not the patient.
Yeah, for the patient. But so then it would only ever still be a single blind trial.
Single blind, exactly.
So those are the things that people get hung up on, and really just think there's a simpler way of doing research.
Yeah.
It's not to say you treat the patients the same every way each single time, but if you're trying to measure an outcome, the way from how long they're sitting in the office to like your business systems, how long are they on the table, what checks are they doing, in what order are you checking certain things, from posture to thermography to weight imbalance, leg length, right? We can go through all the finicky stuff and go over people's head, but whatever it is you do, if you document it, like you're taking your soap notes, and if it's an electronic or whatever paperwork, and it's done in orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make sure that you do it in orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every single time, and you take very good notes, there's research. You do the same thing over and over again. How many the RAN 36, how many different forms that I now still remember them as colored forms in the health center. I couldn't tell you which forms are what because there's so many, right? But
it's all going electronic, so there's no more colors.
There's no more colors. And it'd suck if I was colorblind, right? But if everyone gets a health outcomes form, where are you today? And this isn't just subjective. It's subjective, yes, but it isn't just on a 1 to 10. I'm like, okay, you tick the boxes of where you feel you are. I'm, as the doctor, ticking the boxes where I see you are. And then we do this at the halfway stage, and we do this at the end. And I do this in my office.
Yeah.
We standardize everything. So yes, we are able to produce papers, but I don't go out of my way to produce research at the moment as I'm building my office, because we've standardized how we look after a patient in the sense of their intake through their journey in the office. Yes, everyone's care is unique. So then we just say, okay, well, all the concussion patients, hey, how many migraine patients do you have in your office, right? Both of you probably have at least 10 or 20 in a month, or in, let's say, 6-month period. Well, let's just take those 10 or 20 and let's pull that data. I'm like, oh, did they improve or did they not improve? Yeah. That's how simple it can be.
So is that what, like with the upper cervical, group right now that's doing the research that you're on the board of, is that what you're looking at, like collecting data from the different offices that's standardized, or is that what you're looking to develop?
I can't speak for the board as not the full representative on this. We've looked at multiple options. We've looked at PBR, which would be practice-based research, and creating a model within NUCA, because of how stringent our protocols are, to be able to say we've taken the x-rays to our tolerances, which are international standards. We've made sure that we've measured everything pre to post, so there's apples to apples comparison on that initial adjustment throughout care. So you can do that in a practice-based model where if all the doctors are taking good notes and they're uploading it into the system, eventually our system will be able to say migraines, and it pulls what's the outcome on, like, what percentage outcomes for migraines? How long should it take them to hold their alignment? How long does it take for them to get 80% or more better symptomatically for themselves and for us objectively? And the other side of it is if someone wants to do research individually that's not technically part of a day-to-day practice, it's a very similar setup. You would just say, well, we are only going to evaluate these people for this, with this condition or within this health paradigm, and you just look at that. You don't look at every single patient that comes through the door.
Right.
So it doesn't become overwhelming to say, how do I do this for every single patient that comes in my office?
Yeah.
I had that vision in mind when I was building my office. So it was just like putting one Lego piece, as I see it, just putting in one sort of business system, one office system in to be able to, and it took a few months to get going, but now it's just like any intake process. It doesn't feel different.
Yeah, my takeaway is that anyone can do research. I mean, we can, if we have it set up correctly. It's just that we just have to have a foundation set.
Yeah, 100%.
And our offices, people out in the field, if they follow, whatever the protocols are, we could be collecting huge amounts of data and being able to produce, good research.
Yeah. And these would be very good retrospective studies. And that's something to be clear about. If you're setting out to do an exploratory or a research on a subject before, like you have to go apply for an IRB, you have to go through, and it's more simpler than it sounds, but there are a few more steps you have to do before you say, hey, I just want to go look at concussions.
Yeah.
It's easier to do a bit of a retrospective study if you set it up to that standard.
Yeah.
Allows you to get going.
Wow. Well, but I look at it this way, like in our practice, we collected data, Ron. Remember, like we had people, we had raw data. We just didn't know what to do after that.
Absolutely.
And and for the chiros out there, like we were too busy to do research.
We had objective data. Every one of our tests that we did, our whole exam was, the only thing we touched the patient for was a leg check, but otherwise it was all computerized. Whether the computers were, like you said, it might not go through an IRB, where the computers are set at a certain marker and everything has been FDA approved, yada, yada, yada. But we did have the data that was consistent by using the same equipment, and it's incredible. And I love what you just said about just being able to produce those, the certain studies that we could be able to work with and be able to, and then build upon those. But man, I tell you, I can talk research all day and it's so cool, but we are hitting our witching time right now. And I love your accent, so I can hear you all day. In fact, I think I'm gonna have a voicemail. But every time, Vivek, on these shows that we do, our Life by Life West, we always end with asking two questions to our guest. And so we're going to do that with you. Just a 30, 45-second answer, whatever innately comes up for you. That's what we want you to go with. So,
okay, I'll ask you the first question. If you could go back in time and you're sitting in front of Vivek in chiropractic school, what advice would you give him, knowing what you know now?
Oh, if this was 1.0 in Wales, I would say you should have do this now. Don't go, move now. Don't wait. If I was at Life West, my grandma always says, don't live with regret. She says, if you do what you think is right in the moment, then you can't regret it because you did what you thought was right.
Wow.
So
nice.
it's so difficult to say what I would do. Enjoy each moment even more. It's not that I didn't. There's moments I wish I was you know what, I could have taken an extra 2 minutes just to breathe it in.
Yeah.
I love that.
Same question, but now you're going to be speaking to Dr. Vivek, just starting practice, right? Because obviously you just jumped in and started. What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you would say to Dr. Vivek?
Oh, you're gonna have to read a book for this one, but this too shall pass.
I love it.
Oh.
I at the time I started I was 1 in 21. My one win for making money, being able to support myself is my office.
Yeah.
I have lost jobs. I have attempted to do so many things, 22 attempts, and 21 not necessarily failures, but very strong learning points and morals. I think they were actually 27, but 21. But at that time I was just brand new and I hit so many roadblocks. And if I had that information right when I started, it would have made every single hurdle, a mountain, and molehill, and whatever else you want to call it. But some of them were monumentous and some of them weren't as monumentous when you look at it in hindsight. this too shall pass.
Yeah, I love it. And you know
Wow.
what? Every one of those, there's no way you could avoid them. And you weren't supposed to avoid them, right?
I
Because
wasn't.
what make you, when you look back 10 years from now, or even 5 years, you'll be saying, man, I was so glad I went through that, because that's what builds me, it builds who we are.
Still going through it. We're building an office. So you already know the ups and
Of
downs.
course,
So
of course.
Well, your mom and I'm sure your grandmother, they passed a lot of wisdom down to you. That's what I see in you.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great takeaway. A great
Yeah,
takeaway.
that's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yep. Well, listen, man, we love you. We appreciate what you're doing for the profession. We appreciate, I know you give back to Life West and any chance you can, and you're just truly, you really are a servant. You've got that from them also, or it's in your DNA, one or the other, but that you would get that from them. But we really enjoyed having you on the show today, and thank you for sharing, for doing what you're doing, keeping research going. The more, like you said, lack of evidence, that it doesn't mean that it's not there. We just have to go and find it, right? And that's really what we need as a profession right now. Won't change our outcomes, but it will certainly, show the world where our outcomes are at and what's going on. It's wonderful. So thank you for being with us, and Mary, thank you for being with us again. Being the two of us. I love doing these. I look forward to being with you on these. To our viewers, thank you for checking in. We do these, we drop these Life by Life Wests every other week. The week's other side, the other 2 weeks, we have our Life Leadership line. I will tell you that you'll be hearing about it. These will now be coming out as podcasts also. So you'll be able to get onto our station and listen to them in the car, wherever you'd like to. But we certainly appreciate you joining us and sharing these with others. We are getting a tremendous amount of responses, and people need to hear this stuff. Vivek dropped some bombs today that everyone needs to hear, and just start thinking a little bit more about what we're doing and how we can improve our outcomes of what we want to do and contribute more to the general body of chiropractic. So thank you for tuning in. We'll come back at you again, and we hope that you keep joining us and sharing what we have. So until we see you again, from Vivek, Mary, and myself, we'll bid you adieu, and keep loving those around you. And don't forget to give, do, love, and serve out of your abundance without expecting anything in return. Be that selfless servant. Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.